I would like to welcome everybody to the town hall debate for Deer Park. My name is Michael Brock, and I'm the reporter for the weekly newspaper in town, the Deer Park Tribune. I grew up in Southeast Alaska and graduated from Eastern Washington University in 2019, and then moved to Deer Park in January of 2020. So I've been here for better part of a year and a half. We're going to have 3 sections this evening: prepared questions, town hall questions, and debate questions. Tonight we are joined by city council candidates for the city of Deer Park. We had planned to have the mayoral candidates as well. However, a family emergency for one of the candidates nixed that plan. So tonight we're joined by 2 candidates for position number 1 and 1 candidate for position number 3. To my right here, for position number 1, we have Jason Upchurch and Billy Costello. And then for position number 3, we have Richard Scott. So we'll start out with these prepared questions. And the theme for these prepared questions is growth. Each candidate will get the chance to answer each question for up to 90 seconds. Over the past few weeks, I generated roughly 30 questions that Caleb and I parsed through to pick a top 5, as well as some extras if we have time at the end. We worked to tweak the wording in a few of the questions, but for the most part, they are true to the questions that I had generated. I would also like to be transparent in the candidate order that these questions will be asked. Earlier today, I typed all 4 candidates when I thought that all 4 were going to be here into one of those spin wheel generators online, entering them alphabetically by last name. And then I spun the wheel. The person it landed on was assigned number 1 and was removed from the list. The next person it landed on was assigned number 2, and so forth until each candidate was assigned a number. I then found a random number sequence generator online and set the minimum at 1, maximum at 4, and ran that 12 different times to come up with our order for each question. So, with that being said, Billy will go first for question number 1, which is, if you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? You have 90 seconds.
Well, that's a $1 million question right there. Right now, I mean, considering where we are as a town, I'd probably spend that $1 million on getting us a greater presence here, police force. I believe that's with our growth, we need more police around town, and I truly believe that extending our contract, getting some more police officers with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office is probably the best fiscal sense. What $1 million, man! Buy some more lottery tickets or something. But I also think that we need some more recreation for the team. I think really rebuilding our sports complex should be a top priority. Just going out there and watching my kids play baseball out there for Tri-County Little Leagues, I think that really needs some revamping there. I'd love to see us increase the recreation we have for the team, for our kids. And yeah, I mean, that's probably my best answer you got there. Yep.
The second person to answer that question will be Richie, and I will ask you the same question. If you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
There we go. The $1 million seems like a large amount of money, but when it comes to city budgets and stuff, that's actually not that much money. You could get 1/6 of a water tower. You could begin breaking ground on a new police department. There's that sum of money would go very quickly. But where we are with the city right now, I think one of the most important uses for that would be potentially for the startup costs of a police department. With the sheriff's contract, there's a lot of discussion about investing more in that to get more deputies. But the simple fact is the the Spokane County Sheriff's Department cannot provide the deputies because they don't have enough deputies to cover the county. So we need to be looking at other options. There's other ways that we can increase law enforcement, and there's a lot of different ways that we can make that work. So in starting a police department, hiring private security companies, there's a lot of different things that we can look at to create a solution to provide the coverage that we need for our town.
And finally, I'll ask the same question to Jason. If you received a $1 million grant to use for the city any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Yeah, so it seems like there's a theme of law enforcement, and I am definitely pro having a local police department here in town. One of the objections that many people have to doing that is startup costs. I don't think those startup costs are unreasonable, but $1 million would sure go a long ways in providing SUVs and other infrastructure for a local police department. So I think that would be a great way to spend that $1 million and then roll what we currently budget for the Spokane County Sheriff's Office into our own local police department. So yeah, I would be 100% in favor of using that money for a local police department.
We will move on to question number 2, and we'll start with Richie for this one. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of infrastructure in our city, a road, a bridge, or something similar, how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth implementing?
That's one of my favorite things to do, honestly. I love researching and testing out ideas, whether it be infrastructure, police departments, all these different things. I love researching that. Quite often I'll have an initial idea of how best something might work, but I want to seek out information to challenge my own initial thinking, kind of do inductive research to widen any perspective that I might have. Um, it's important to also seek out outside opinions that are differing than my own. I don't want to be caught in my own echo chamber. I want to make sure that I'm getting those opinions that are different, evaluating those against everything, and determining what is really best. Researching comparable cities and how they are approaching things. Um, Sometimes it's difficult finding other cities that are like Deer Park that are doing different things, but as much as possible, looking at other cities. I don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel, so try to look at other places. So thank you.
I will now ask the same question to Billy. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of infrastructure in our city, a road, a bridge, or something similar, how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth implementing?
Well, I think we need some more roundabouts, right? No, I mean it's kind of what Richie talked about too, is just having the input from others of what we need in town. And one of the biggest thing is, as a city council member, is creating that infrastructure to entice new businesses to come to town. So I think creating the landmarks, the space needed, the roads to entice those companies to come in, whether it be grocery stores, retail thing, restaurants that we really need in town with our growing population here. I really think that input of others and the population in our community has to be taken into consideration. And yeah, I mean, prettier roundabouts.
Finally, Jason, same question. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of infrastructure in our city, a road, a bridge, or something similar, how would you evaluate whether or not that project was worth implementing?
Yeah, so what the city usually does right now is they implement engineering studies to see if this is really needed. So for traffic, for instance, they do traffic studies. They do traffic counts at a particular time in the day. We had an area of town that was recently approved to become a subdivision, and part of what they had to do was do a traffic study. How is this going to affect the traffic flow around Deer Park? Same thing with roundabouts on 395. Or at Crawford and Colville, they do traffic studies. Same thing with water consumption studies. How much water do we have? How much do the water towers drop every day? How much do they, or every night? How much do they replenish during the day? And so we have engineering studies, engineers that actually measure the needs that we really have. If there are needs, then we start planning for the future. If there are no needs, then we can use our resources elsewhere. And that's really something that's very important on the city council, is to prioritize where you want to use the financial resources you have. You only have so much money. You only have a certain amount to budget for any given thing. And so you have to prioritize these things. You have to know if there's a road in the backside of Deer Park, does it get enough traffic to warrant spending $400,000 to pave that one city block with all the drainage and all the sidewalks? So it's prioritization.
Now moving on to question number 3. I know he just went, but Jason, you're up first. If you are not elected, what would you do to try and help work on ideas that are important to you?
Yeah, so good question. I love our city. I love our city council. I've been attending the city council meetings for 5 years and trying to participate in any way that I possibly can. 4 years ago, I was part of a citizens task force to select some playground equipment for Swinyard Park, just down the block. I've been involved even in the last few months at trying to get some citizen support to open up our swimming pool when it seemed like we wouldn't be able to open up our swimming pool. And so I just love our town, and in any way I possibly can, I want to help our town. I want to make it better. I'd love to serve the town on the city council. I think I could do a really good job there. But if I don't make it and Billy's in, I think Billy would probably do just fine. But I still want to help our town. This is a great city, and I'd probably run the next go round to try and get on the city council.
I will now ask Billy the same question. If you are not elected, what would you do to try and help work on ideas that are important to you?
Yeah, so I think all three men that are sitting up here, I mean, we're all relatively we're young. We're all going to be leaders in this community in one way or another over the next 30 years or so, right? I mean, yeah, and that's, I've been a part of the chamber. I've been a board member. I can't use a term because it's trademarked, but you guys know what I do for a living, so I'm a something neighbor. I'm very, very involved in the community with that. That's what I love about my career, is that it allows me to be a small business owner and give back to the community that I own a business in. So I'm going to be here for a while, and I think all three of us will be here for a while. And I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing as a business owner for the last 3 years in town. And I'm just getting started, man.
And finally, you guessed it, Richie's last here on this one. If you are not elected, what would you do to try and help work on ideas that are important to you?
So before I was elected, we started, my wife and I started the Deer Park Citywide Yard Sale. So working on events that are useful to the community is important to us, and we want to continue doing those sort of things. I work in journalism, and so I would want to continue working with to make city council meetings transparent and to let people know what is going on in the city. I think that's really, really important. So I'd be at the city council meetings, and like Jason said, I'd probably be running again later. So yeah.
Now moving on to question number 4, we'll start with Richie on this one. If you could change one thing in the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
So actually, one of the things that Joe Pulowski brought to my attention shortly after I was first elected is that our city code requires 2-car garages for homes. And that adds to the cost of building a home. And that gets passed on to the home buyer, but that often prices out people that live in Deer Park. There's a lot of people in Deer Park that are telling me they need a home in Deer Park. They don't want to relocate, but right now there's nothing selling for under 300,000, 327,000 last time I checked. And so if we can modify that one little thing, that would help reduce some of the costs of the homes that are here. The homes are going to be built. It's just whether or not they can be built so that people in Deer Park can afford them. If we continue to build homes the way that we are now, only outsiders are going to be able to afford the homes in Deer Park, and we're going to end up losing everybody that we're familiar with who have been here for generation after generation. So I think that's one of the things that we need to do, is make sure that our neighbors can stay our neighbors. Thank you.
Jason is next for question number 4. If you could change one thing in the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
Yeah, the one thing that I would probably change is to be able to have what are typically called an in-law unit on a single-family residence. As most of you know or have seen online, especially around here, it's probably 3 to 4 times a week. There's some posting of, hey, I need a place for my parents. I need a place for my family to live. Does anybody know of anywhere? And part of the problem is we just have a housing shortage. And one of the ways that we could remedy that, especially with family members, would be to have a stipulation where you could build an accessory dwelling on your property that would be up to code. It's not just a something cheap just thrown together, but it would actually be up to code. There'd be water, power, that sort of thing, where they could live on your property. And there are laws in different municipalities that do that. But I think that would really alleviate a lot of the housing problem that we have here. And it would also allow for families to live closer to one another. Parents are living to a later stage in life, and it's difficult for them to not have any sort of care close by. And this would be a wonderful opportunity for them to live close by to family members who could take care of them.
And then last but not least, Billy, for this question number 4, if you could change one thing in the city's zoning code, what would it be and why?
Chickens. I'm kidding. Everybody wants their chickens, right? No, but to kind of talk about what Richie said too. I mean, I also agree. I think that the 2 garage minimum is kind of a bit ridiculous. I get the point of it. I mean, I get the clearing the streets for snowplows, things like that, to have, and the safety of keeping cars safe. But I generally agree that having 2 cars is with the cost of supplies and building a house right now, it's ridiculous. And if we can cut the cost to keep the families in town and the families that grew up here and kind of keep those outsiders out a little bit, keep that small town feel, I'm all for it. So
Moving on to question number 5. Billy will start out with this one. If elected, what will you do to proactively communicate information to the 2 community members?
yeah, so I mean, it's 2021. There's a plethora of ways for us to communicate to people. I know a big issue here is getting the city council's email right. I'm not 100% opposed to it. I think it's a decent idea. However, I am concerned. The company that I work or I represent, we have the second most amount of customer data in the United States, with the U.S. government being the first. So my setback on having that email for our community to communicate with us as council members is the fact that there's so much clickbait out there. I'd want to make sure we had a good VPN, secure network. We send at least once a week, I get an email that's a phishing exercise to make sure we don't click on it. And just one phishing exercise could really jeopardize the security of our entire town. I mean, we get our water bills through the city. Having that information get out there is not a good idea. So I'm not against it, but I'd want to make sure that network is really secure for us to use. And I mean, social media is there. I mean, being in this campaign, I mean, it's a drag. I want to break from it after all this, right? Take a little cleanse, but there's many ways for us to communicate.
Jason is next for this question. If elected, what will you do to proactively communicate information to community members?
Yeah, so I'm 100% in favor of having an email address for the city council members. I think information goes both ways. I think there are plenty of security protections that are available that we can use and reasonably expect privacy to be secured. Social media is definitely a big avenue. There are some drawbacks to social media. I have a friend who is not on social media, and we've got the fires going, and I'm giving him updates about the fires, and he's like, "How do you know all of this?" I'm like, "Well, I'm on social media," and he goes, "Well, that's great. I guess the rest of us burn." So social media is a great way, but it's not the only way. So I think email is huge. I think social media is huge. I recently came across not a program, but a service that I believe Liberty Lake uses right now. It's called Text My Gov, and it's a way that the government can actually text information to people who subscribe for warnings, for updates, for all sorts of things. They've got different categories. You can actually even text the Gov, "Hey, there's a pothole in the road, and can you fix it?" And it'll go to the right people. And the more communication routes that we have, the better, for sure.
And then finally, for question number 5, Richie, if elected, what will you do to proactively communicate information to community members?
Like what has been said, email is important. It's something that most city council members in other cities have. It's something that I've been pushing for and trying to get some discussion about on city council meetings. We need to get caught up with that. I work in IT. It's something that is affordable. It's something that most businesses are doing to meet HIPAA requirements or other retention requirements. So it's very, very doable. And it's something that we need to do. I also think that we should be having our meetings on Zoom, or similar broadcasting or streaming on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, so that people who are working or are sick and can't be in person for the city council meetings, they can watch those live, or they can watch those later at their convenience. And I think that's important. I also think that social media is a great way to get messages out. But I think that writing a blog and sharing some of the information on that is a great way to help communicate with the community as well.
So we're going to do one more question here for the prepared question section, and then we're going to move on to the town hall portion. So audience members, get your questions ready and get ready to come up to the mic here in a few minutes. We'll start with Jason on question number 6. Do you think our main street in downtown is healthy and thriving? If not, what would you do to change that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would love to see in Deer Park is a beautification process, a plan for beautification. My son and I, we just drove through Chewelah a couple of nights ago, and Chewelah, you guys, is cute. They've got planters everywhere. It feels kind of hometowny, small, and it's not a lot of effort, but it is some effort. And I would love to see something like that. One of the things that I want to see done is investment in our parks here, but part of that is just an overall beautification. I think encouraging businesses to rent out. I think taking care of this really historical downtown area that we have here is great. And yeah, I think that we could do a lot to cuten it up, to make it pretty. I think the shop owners here already do a pretty decent job, the ones that are leasing there. But I think there's more that the city could do to aid in all of that.
Next, we'll go to Richie for the same question. Do you think our main street in downtown is healthy and thriving? If not, what would you do to change that?
The downtown, the Main Street, Crawford areas, it's amazing seeing the changes and how a lot of the businesses have kind of revitalized some of the buildings along the road. The lighting has been improved. It's the roundabout that's going in there. There's new lighting that's going in there. And I think that really helps with that. There's something that I think we need to do a little bit more work on is looking into revitalization grants to help fix up some of these older parts of town that have historic buildings and help improve those. City Hall is probably on one of the lists of those as well as the historic building. It's 110 years old. So that's one of the things that looking into those revitalization grants, beautification, having a parks plan where we're looking at all the parks as a system, so that when they come together, each park we have a plan for and how it fits into the system as a whole, and investing in those as is appropriate.
And then finally, Billy, for this same question, do you think our main street in downtown is healthy and thriving? If not, what would you do to change that?
I think there's definitely some opportunity there. Richard's talking a lot about grants. When I was on the board at the chamber, I think us partnering up as city council and the city and the chamber working together to beautify the city is a huge opportunity. We went through a lot of grant processes and looking at different grants that we could do that. And, a lot of it comes down to the business owners. And, my office is just off of Main Street, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. Jason talked a lot about, we drove through Chewelah when we went camping a couple weeks ago, and it's beautiful. I mean, the flower pots that they have out there, and being a member of their chamber too, it's the business owners that participate and donate the money to get those flower pots out there to beautify the city. Like I said, it's great. There's a lot of great businesses on Main Street, but there's a lot of opportunity that we could really improve and make it more enticing for the next generation of people living here. So, yeah.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now move to the town hall portion. Audience members can come up and ask questions, and we'll do the same thing, 90 seconds per response. And whoever's asking the question gets to choose if it's for just one candidate or for everyone. If it's for everyone, I'll do my best to type it out how they asked it, and then I can just ask the other two, so the person doesn't have to stand up there for the whole time.
Here's a question submitted by Courtney Van Egman online. She said, how would you help keep our small town feel? So that was Courtney Van Egman asking, how would you help keep our small town feel?
And I'll just go to my sheet for that, for the order, and we'll start with Billy.
You know, it's one of my things is you know, I'm very community minded, community oriented. I think that really, you know, keeping the small town feel starts with our people. Okay, it's if you've seen what's happened over the fires the last few days, seeing the cars and the trailers parked outside of Masters and Double Eagle Pond. I mean, as long as we have neighbors like that, there's no way we're going to lose a small town feel. I mean, I don't care how much we grow, to have neighbors to just get rid of this dividedness that we have in politics and just come together and be there for each other, being neighbors. There's nothing that it starts with the people. It's not with your council. It starts with the people. And we, I mean, I've just been flabbergasted by what's been going on this past week. You know, being an insurance agent, having customers come in and just lose everything this past week that were in harm's way, and just seeing this community rally together. It just, there's so many heroes in this town, and it's, I mean, Sheriff Ozzie talked about at that the law enforcement night that we had. I mean, we were so lucky to live in Deer Park, and people are afraid of the growth. It's coming. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But if we stick together as a community like this, I mean, it's, the sky's the limit. I mean, this is small town America right here.
And Jason, with the same question, how do we keep that small town feel?
Yeah, I echo actually a lot of what Billy says. I've just been amazed at what's gone on over the last few days as our community is pulled together and helped one another. The evacuation crews that have been sitting ready to go outside of the pawn shop there has just been super encouraging to see. I think we are going to grow, and that is part of the deal. And I think part of it is also just an attitude as a community of welcoming those who come here. If our posture is that these are all outsiders and these are all bad people and that sort of thing, then when they come in, they're going to act like outsiders and bad people. I think part of it is welcoming them in and getting them accustomed to the history of Deer Park and the things that we do, the Winterfest and Settlers Days, and sort of blending them into our culture and blending them into our small town feel. And you know, I mean, everybody who lives here is at some point moved here, unless your family's just been here for generations. We've been here for 10 years, and when we first came, it just felt a little bit different, and you get used to it, and then you're like, wow, this is like a hidden little secret here. This is wonderful, and you want it to yourself, but the reality is people are going to come. But you have to give them that welcome and that warmth, and help them to understand they need to pass that along too.
And finally, Richie, with the same question, how do we keep that small town feel?
Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I have actually been doing a lot of thinking about that. The small town feeling, what exactly is that? There's a lot of discussion about it that being the community, being working together, supporting each other, volunteerism, and that is critically important to that small town feeling. Some of the other parts of that are having the natural areas that are surrounding Deer Park, but then also throughout pockets within Deer Park. And so if there are ways that we can ensure that those pockets of nature exist in some form within the city and around the city, that I think would be beneficial. There are some unimproved streets in Deer Park that maybe could be changed into minor green belts of nature areas and remain that way, so that they provide separation from the various different developments, and so that you have some sound absorption and prevent the urban heating effect. And it provides a lot of benefits for that. Also, feeling safe in our community, which gets us back to the law enforcement. There's a whole lot that goes into it, and I've been writing about that on my blog, on my website. So take a look at that.
Thank you for submitting that question on Facebook. If there's anybody else in the audience that has a question, feel free to come up now. As Hazel walks up, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the Gazette, the Tribune, the Picket Fence, the Vine Community, First Baptist Church, and Night Boat Docks. They all played a part in putting this together, whether donating their time or resources. So we thank you.
Thank you. After the chamber luncheon, we were all criticized for appearing nervous while answering questions. I'd like to point out that none of us are trained in public speaking, with the possible exception of the pastor here. And this is a much different arena, even for him. If we asked him to take 2 minutes to expound on biblical truths, he would definitely shine. And that's my question to all of you. What topic makes you shine? Please tell us something you're passionate about, tell us what sparked your interest, and maybe some specific details we may not know.
Oh, that's me. For this one, we will start with Billy again. What topic makes you shine?
Fantasy football? No, I'm just kidding. You know what? Insurance is the easy answer, right? I mean, it's, but just people. You know, I'm great with people. I mean, I love talking about people. I love building people up. I love, best part of my job is being a leader and creating jobs and seeing people grow. And that's probably the thing that makes me shine the most, is that I just love watching my kids grow. I love coaching their teams. That's my calling. I mean, just being a coach, leader. I mean, that's who I am. And you said, what was something? What sparked me? I mean, I'm a small business owner. I got 3 kids that go to our public school system. I'm going to be here for many. Yeah. I had some weird things about me. I mean, I'm obsessed with claw machines. I'll go to Fred Meyer by myself. I'm 34 years old. You'll see me on a claw machine, and I love winning stuffed animals. My wife hates it because it's just, that's one of my things. I love baseball. I love barbecuing. I like smoking briskets. I mean, I like a good beer at Masters. I mean, that's me.
Same question for Richie. What topics make you shine?
Well, there's a lot of things. One of the things I love talking about my kids and my wife. They are the joy of my life. As the other thing is that I'm passionate about what I do for a living. I love journalism. I love IT work. But one of the things I like about all of that is, creating and analyzing and putting together the solutions that are needed for my family, for my businesses, and for the city. I quite often overanalyze and dive into topics. One of the reports I recently created for city council was 6 pages with like 200 some supporting pages of documents and reports that I had read through. Reading into the police departments, the law enforcement issue, there's hundreds of pages of documents that I've read into. Recently, we talked about fences at Swinyard Park. Oh my goodness, I have read so much about safety, whether fences provide more safety or if they provide a false sense of safety, and looking into the psychological effect of fences. I analyze things. I look at solutions. That's what I geek out about.
Finally, same question for Jason. What topics make you shine?
So I love people and I love Jesus. Those are really the two. My wife was just joking with somebody last night that I'll go out to check the mail and I won't come back for an hour. And she's like, where did he go? And I'm talking with like 3 neighbors. And I just love people. I love getting to know them. I love talking with them, seeing what interests them. If you guys have talked with me, you probably know that. If you get 2 of us chatterboxes, we'll be there all day. I am a pastor. My passion is to teach people about the Bible, to teach people about the Lord Jesus. That's the most important thing in my life. I love to tell people, and especially in times like this where we're facing resurgence with COVID and people are losing houses, what they need more than anything is hope. They need the hope of Jesus, and that's what I love to talk about. That's my passion. That's my calling. People ask me, why are you running for city council? And it's like, well, because I want to help people. I want to do the best I can for our community. And I think I can take the love of Christ and I can show it to people, even in the city council, and do a good job with that.
Do we have any other audience questions out there?
Hi there. What, if anything, can you specify as far as your vision for providing opportunities for the youth and kids in our community. I mean, we've got a disc golf course that's unfinished, and a lot of kids with not a lot to do once the pool closes and whatnot. So I guess I'm just curious kind of if you've thought through a vision for the next generation and what that looks like in this community, providing safe places and activities so that they're not causing trouble, kind of thing.
And that'll be Richie first for this one.
Thank you. Great question. I'd love to see that disc golf course finished and completed. I think that's part of having that parks plan and having that proper investment into each of the parks and natural areas so that we can get the most out of them. There are other activities, a lot of the things that we have in Deer Park are seasonal. So once there's snow on the ground, you can't go out you could go out to the disc golf course, but you can't do skateboard, you can't do swimming pool. There's a lot of things that you just can't do once the snow's on the ground. We used to have a youth center, and we used to have a bowling alley. We used to have a movie theater. We used to have a lot of other things. But if the city can partner with the Chamber of Commerce, other nonprofit organizations, and the business community to try and attract and rebuild some of these things that we've lost, I think that's going to help provide some of those activities again. And, things are changing. So, bowling may not be as popular as it used to be. Maybe pickle or, finishing the disc golf course, an arcade, other things like that are more popular at this time is something that we need to look at. So,
Next to Billy for the same question. What is your vision for providing for the youth in the community?
Yeah, well, I talked about earlier, I think that our sports complex really needs some revamping. That's something I'm really for. My 3 kids are sitting over there. They're probably dying of boredness because there's no Wi-Fi right now. But just, 6, 8, and 10, just my kids growing up here and that next generation that's coming up. I believe there's a lot of opportunity for us. And my vision, I would love to see an updated of the sports complex. I would love to see something like a YMCA or some type of rec youth center for them to go and just hang out and stay out of trouble. My business is right across the street from the bowling alley, and that closed like right before I opened up, and that was kind of a bummer. We loved going there. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity. My wife and I have talked a lot about personal investments of creating new businesses, something that's good for the youth. I mean, rodeo shops, movie theaters, these types of things are just something that would really be awesome for the kids to do, and hangout spots to keep them out of trouble. And yeah.
And finally, same question for Jason. What is your vision for providing for the youth in the community?
So I was so close to, when the $1 million question was asked earlier, to saying invest it all in parks. But I think you have to be safe before you can have fun. So if I got a second grant of $1 million, I would invest it in parks. I think we could go a long ways to investing in our parks here. I think the first thing I'd love to see is a skateboard park, like one of those concrete swimming pool kind of skateboard parks, probably over by the athletic center. I'd love to see the bike park behind the library. I'd love to see that finished up and done. I'd love to see Swinyard Park have the basketball area revamped. There's a whole quarter of it that's messed up and needs to be resurfaced, and you could put some lights out there and that whole thing. I think we could do a lot of goodness with $1 million. I think you could build like a massive playground of dreams that would rival something at Manitou Park. I would love to see something like that. I think Richie's right. We need a parks plan where we prioritize a couple of parks each year and really invest in those parks and just sort of move from park to park. And I think that would be a wonderful way to help the youth in our city.
Any other audience questions out there?
I know the police department has kind of dominated this political conversation for the last year. But a police department is not going to be, even if you created one, it's not going to be a couple years down the road. You don't have the money right away. In the interim, what is Deer Park's biggest problem that needs to be fixed?
We'll start with Richie on this one again.
So yeah, it does take some time to get a police department started, and that's something that I've been kind of looking at since we got this new contract with the sheriff almost 4 years ago. It takes at minimum 18 months to get a new police department up. So the next big problem that I think Deer Park faces is not enough for the youth to do after hours, during the wintertime. I think that's one of the things that, and that contributes to this feeling of safety in the community, because when kids are bored, they're going to find bad things to do and get into trouble, get into fights, get into other issues. And so by giving the kids opportunities to expend that energy in a healthy way, at all times of the day or all seasons of the year, I think that's really, really important to do. So I think that's would be the next biggest thing. Part of that is developing that parks plan as well. So all those things kind of go together to help with the community.
Jason will be next on this question, the same one. What is Deer Park's biggest problem to tackle currently?
So I've probably knocked on somewhere between 120 and 140 houses on their doors, and usually the question that I ask them is, what would you change about Deer Park, or something like, what's your Christmas list for Deer Park? And the interesting thing is, a lot of people don't have a Christmas list because we live in a really, really good community. But the one thing that people want more than anything is a second grocery store. They want a second grocery store. They might like Yolks, maybe they don't like Yolks, but they want competition, that sort of thing. So I think soliciting businesses to come and give us a more well-rounded business variety would be huge. We've got a great industrial park out there. Problem is, it's empty. There's not a lot of manufacturing businesses out there. So I think and when I talk to people about this, that's usually what they say is it would be nice to have more variety in businesses. We don't need another auto parts store. We've got plenty. But yeah, that's usually what people say. They'd love a grocery store and they'd love more well-rounded business opportunities here.
Finally, to Billy for the same question. What is Deer Park's biggest problem to tackle currently?
I know he's my competitor, but I got to shadow a lot what Jason just said. More businesses. I like to keep our money in Deer Park, right? I mean, it's the local businesses, it's the small businesses that donate to our sports teams, our arts, all these different programs. We need more businesses. I hate going to Spokane to spend money. I really do. I'm an insurance agent. There's 4 insurance offices in town. Competition, like Jason said, it's good. I mean, it really is good. If someone doesn't want to do business with me, I'd rather that money stay in town. Grocery store, like you said, is a big issue. Yolks is great. I love the customer service is top notch at Yolks. I mean, it's amazing. But like I said, competition is good. A lot of people, like Jason said, everybody wants a new grocery store. I mean, we probably will need that with the growth that we're expected with all these 400 plus homes being built here. Yeah, I mean, just more businesses. I like I said, let's just keep our money in town and find ways to bring those businesses here. Like I said, we're all going to be leaders here for the next 30 years or so. It's going to grow like crazy. You guys think it's growing now? I can't wait to see what it's going to be like when I'm retiring. So, yeah.
More audience questions?
Can you hear me? All right. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. I have a lot of concerns about bringing in businesses. All I hear is bringing in more businesses. We have a lot of divisiveness, if you guys haven't noticed, by bringing in these businesses. They are hire a lot of outsiders that don't even work out here, and the community has a hard time finding work. We are put down if we do anything that upsets the people that have the businesses out here. And it's not the owners of the people that live out here. It's all of them. It's Yolks, Pizza Hut, Cricket, AutoZone, they're O'Reilly's. I can name them all, but they treat the people out here like dirt because they don't belong out here. They don't work out here. And this really concerns me because I have had a number of times of this happening. And all I get to hear is you guys want to bring out more businesses, more businesses. None of the people out here are able to get these jobs because they want to hire outside because they don't want to provide the people out here jobs. So how would you guys fix this?
We'll start with Billy for this question.
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused because my thought process is if we bring in more businesses, that creates more jobs for the people of this town. So can you elaborate a little bit more? What?
None of these businesses are hiring within the people that live out here. I have talked to a lot of them, and I have heard people that live all the way out past the valley that drive all the way out here to work. There's a lot of people. I mean, just ask around. I can't really go through a whole list of them, but they all don't even work out here. They don't know the community. They don't have any desire to have any serve any respect to the community. And I am tired of having that feeling. I've grown up here the last 30 years of my whole life. I appreciate Deer Park, but all I hear is you guys want to bring in more businesses, and more people, pushing out the little people that actually care about this place. And when you ask about all the new people that are moved in here, they don't know a thing. It's not them that care about Deer Park at all. Maybe they bring in the money, great. They're not. It's not part of the community. You guys want to keep the small town, but you always want to bring in more businesses, more businesses. That's all I hear. But none of these people out here all over the place are able to get jobs here locally.
Well, to kind of answer that question too, I mean, it's, I'm just a candidate right now, right? I mean, I didn't control what's going on now. We're growing. There's nothing we can do to stop that. And so my philosophy of bringing in new businesses to keep our money in Deer Park, create jobs for the people of Deer Park. I mean, I understand your frustration and the situation. I can't speak for those businesses that you talked about. I mean, I have 3.5 employees that I employ here in town. I mean, I don't think I have an answer that's going to really satisfy. I mean, I want this town's growing. There's nothing I can do to stop it. And my answer is I think that creating new businesses, changing the culture that you have dealt with, I think that we can do that as a council. I think we can come together, create that small town feel like we talked about before, the people coming together. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can answer it any more than that.
We'll go to Richie next.
Thank you for that question. One of the problems is that there's a lot of businesses in Deer Park that are like Yokes or O'Reilly's that have locations all over the place. And so when they need employees, they quite often pull from what they have already trained because it's quick and easy and cheap to do that. The businesses that employ locals are typically started by locals. And so making it easy for locals to start their own businesses, to employ people that are local. One of the things that I think would be very beneficial to that is the city is already partnering with the Chamber of Commerce in a lot of ways, but we could make a lot of the application process for business processes easier through the website to make it easier for people to start businesses in Deer Park. There's a lot of resources in Deer Park. If you want to start a business, there's a lot of resources through the library where you can get education and training and information to start a business. I think it's a big part of it is encouraging people here to start businesses that Deer Park needs. And then that will inspire people to hire locally, people that they know. So thank you.
Same question to Jason.
Yeah, I understand your frustration. And especially with big franchise companies, it can often feel very impersonal, that sort of thing. One of the reasons, at least me, I can't speak for them, that I I would love to see a more well-rounded suite of businesses is because I think it was 4 or 5 years ago there was a study done that 10 to 15 million dollars of business is passes by Deer Park and goes to Spokane, and that's true with a lot of our people here in Deer Park. They go to Spokane to purchase things that could be purchased here because there are more variety, there are more options. So it's not that I necessarily want like a Walmart to come in or a big chain that just chews people up or whatever. But it would be nice to have a larger variety of people. A lot of the businesses that we have here are locally owned. Even some of the chain stores are locally owned, and so they do provide jobs. They provide careers even. And even some of the national chains that we have here in town, right along Main Street, they provide first jobs, they provide careers. I know quite a few of the business owners and the general managers, and I think they do try to encourage local hiring.
Next audience question. We've got time for a couple more here.
What will you guys do to bring local businesses to Deer Park, especially some that were in Deer Park that are no longer, like hotels, motels, things like that?
We'll start with Jason on this one.
Yeah. So the first thing I think that we need to do is start talking to people and asking them. Interestingly, about 3 weeks ago, I ended up talking to a guy that I had met up here. And in an unrelated incident, we bumped into each other in Spokane. And it turns out he owns quite a few rental properties, duplexes, triplexes, and he is interested in potentially building a hotel here in Deer Park. And I started encouraging him, like, do you understand that actually there's a lot of people here who would love a hotel? It doesn't have to be a massive deal, but just something. And he's like, no, I didn't really understand that. And so I think to some extent, it's actually just telling or contacting businesses to let them know. I contacted the CEO of Super One Foods a couple of months ago just to let him know, hey, do you know that there's a desire for another grocery store here? And he's like, wow, that's really great to know. They have a purchasing agreement with URM, so they can't come here. But sometimes it's just letting people know. As we dig down further, there might be some discussion about whether to offer tax incentives for companies to come and build. You think of putting up a huge building or any size building, it might take a tax incentive. I'm not 100% sure on that, but we may need to investigate that.
And next to Billy for the same question, what will you do to bring more local businesses to Deer Park?
As a city council member, I mean, the biggest thing is creating the infrastructure needed to bring these towns, making the space available, the roads, accessory, to handle these businesses. I've said multiple times, being a chamber member, board member, and I believe that partnership of working with the chamber to kind of create the business that we do. I mean, we have the highest growth, I think, in Spokane County of 2%, and there's a ton of opportunity for new businesses. And I believe that our partnership with the chamber, creating the infrastructure needed to keep my answer short and simple. That's how I am.
And finally, same question to Richie. What will you do to bring more local businesses to Deer Park?
That's a good question. And so infrastructure is definitely important to do that. Another way of doing that is communication and having information available about our city, having a packet of information about relocating to Deer Park, what's available in Deer Park, the amenities and those sort of things. That's important. Having a packet of information that could be sent out to people, that's important. Now, getting back to the previous question about that, something I neglected to mention is that before the pandemic, I participated in a local job fair. And I think that's something that we also need to do to help support our local community, find those local jobs, put together those job fairs, get all the local businesses hiring locally. When we did that, it was such a fun event. We did it with the high school and the Chamber of Commerce, and it was a ton of fun talking to all the kids about the jobs that were available locally. and I met a lot of great people through that, and I'm looking forward to doing that again. So I think job fairs are a great way to hire local and encourage that. Again, getting businesses to Deer Park, I think we need to encourage people to start businesses in Deer Park that are from Deer Park, but then we need to have a balance of some other businesses that require maybe some larger investments, like a grocery store.
Looks like we have time for one more question here, so we'll go with Sam here. Hey.
Hello. All right, so the hot button topic is law enforcement. So here you go. Governor Jay Inslee recently signed into law without a vote of the people, HB 1310, which is called the Use of Force Bill, that drastically limits the way police officers respond to calls. Law enforcement officers can only make arrests on the grounds of probable cause instead of the reasonable suspicion, giving a green light for criminals to commit crimes without being held accountable. For instance, an officer that witnesses an individual matching the description of a burglary or a shoplifter suspect walking away near the scene of the crime at that specific moment, an officer has reasonable suspicion but does not have probable cause. Therefore, they are no longer authorized to detain the individual if the suspect decides to run or escape. The largest impact for our residents would be the changes in their ability to pursue after a suspect who is fleeing in a vehicle. Law enforcement officers will only be able to engage in a pursuit if there's probable cause to arrest a person in the vehicle for committing a specified violent crime or sex offense, such as murder, kidnapping, drive-by shootings, or rape. Law enforcement officers are no longer allowed to pursue suspects that have committed property crimes, which includes residential burglary, possession of a stolen vehicle, or theft. They can also no longer pursue domestic violence incidents, which includes domestic violence, simple assault, violation of a no contact or protection order, and stalking. So I ask you, what is the point? How do you feel about starting up a Deer Park police force knowing that they really can't actually do much at all to keep us safe? And how do you justify the cost for such limited police coverage?
We'll start with Richie for this question. It's random.
Yeah. So that is a good question. And I think that that unfortunate law is probably going to get changed very quickly when people see the impact that it actually has on the communities throughout the state. It also, I don't think, will stand up in the court of law when there are some tests applied to it. So I think that is going to hopefully not last very long. As far as like the cost of law enforcement, right now we are way under our budget for law enforcement with the county. The reason we are way under budget is that the county can't provide the deputies that they are supposed to be providing the city. So, and as they hire new people, they're not going to send them to Deer Park first. They're going to wait till they get all the deputies they need before they start sending more deputies to Deer Park. So if we need people, law enforcement here, we need to start our own police department and begin working towards that. The cost is going to be probably pretty equivalent to what we're currently budgeting, but we're not paying. So thank you.
Same question to Jason, dealing with the use of force bill.
Yeah, so basically two responses to that. Number one, I agree with Richie. I think a lot of these different specifications are going to be thrown out. I think it's going to be the same kind of thing. A whole bunch of municipalities decided they thought it was a good idea to defund the police, and now they are overfunding the police to try and encourage people to come back. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. We're going to have this for a time. There's going to be a lot of tragedy and a lot of nonsense because of this ridiculous law, and then it's going to get turned over in a court of law. So I think that's the first part. The second part is I'd still rather have 6 cops than 2. No matter what they can do, it's going to keep us safe. Right now we have 2 guys, so we have 80 hours of coverage per week. That's it. And we don't even have a full 80 hours of coverage right now. They're not dedicated to Deer Park 100% of the time. And so I would rather have our own local force that is here in Deer Park dedicated, doing everything they absolutely can within the extent of their ability, than not have any at all, or have a third of that. So I think this is, no matter what comes out of Olympia and a lot of its garbage, I think it's still better to have more law enforcement for the same amount of money than not. Chewelah pays a little bit less than we do. They have 5 officers. They have 3 more officers than we do. They're under the same restrictions. They're not firing their people because they know they need the coverage, and we need the coverage as well.
And finally, same question to Billy.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Dictator Inslee. You know, one thing with the police force, I saw Jason's report of the numbers. The numbers look great, but like you said, Sam, right? My biggest concern too is, you know, being in a law enforcement family, that it's more than just the money, right? And one thing that really stands out to me is if you were at the city council meeting, it was 2 ago, where Deputy Ennis talked about this new law that came into force. I mean, he's afraid to go to jail because of this, right? So that, and we're talking about creating our own police department. If the Spokane County Sheriff's Department is having a hard time hiring people, what thinks a professional entity that's been doing this for a while that we are able to do that ourselves from scratch? I mean, I'm no expert in creating a police department. Nobody up here is. I'm not going to pretend to be. You talk about the one thing that I have that I'm worried about too is that extra protection we have with the Sheriff's Department. If we create our own police department and just get rid of them, we can't guarantee that we're going to have those services that we get with the Sheriff's Department. Well, 2 weeks ago, there's a domestic violence case in town. We had 2 deputies at the house. We had another 2 that were searching for the person that caused this domestic violence. And then we still had our deputy on staff around town. So I don't see the logic in creating our own police department. It's not just the money. The money looks great. Working.
We will now move to the third section here, the debate questions. So the candidates each prepared 2 questions, each for the other candidate. We will have to modify it a little bit. I will ask Richie a couple questions at least, maybe more if we have time. And the way the candidates know this, but just so everybody here is aware how that will work, there will be a short question from A, 2-minute response from B, a possible follow-up from A, and then a possible 1-minute response from B, and then finally a rebuttal or a statement in 1 minute from A. So we will start with Jason here with your first question.
So about the local police force.
Could have saw that coming.
Yeah. So there is broad support within Deer Park for a local police force. Financially, it's feasible. The mayor of Chewelah has encouraged our elected officials to start our own police force. The mayor is even doing a law enforcement study to see the feasibility of doing this. Tonight, you've been cold toward that idea. You'd rather add deputies. One of the things that the Deputy Ennis said a couple of weeks ago, like Richie mentioned, is that there's just really no possibility of us adding any deputies. Further, if we had a local police force, we would have mutual aid agreement with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Our own county commissioner says that this is standard practice for every agency. So if our law enforcement officers needed backup, we could pull from the county. They would do that. They do that with all kinds of other municipalities, but you still seem cold on that. So I guess my question is, if you're anti-local police force and there's no possibility of getting us more deputies anywhere in the foreseeable future, what is your plan to increase our police force? Because it sounds like you want to increase, but there's no option there from the sheriff's department. So what's your specific plan for increasing policing here?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to change. I'm not anti-police here. Okay. Local. I'm not anti-local force. I'm not. I mean, I said I lean more towards increasing our deputies. Okay. And I hope that this political climate makes it more enticing or more intriguing for people to want to be police officers. My kids, I mean, I'm afraid if that's the career they want to go to, especially being the son-in-law of a detective that died in line of duty. I just the fact of hiring increasing the police force it's something that I want to have happen. I still don't believe, based off you talked about Tim creating this this task force that we have, right? So 2 city council members, 7 to 10 citizens. I'd love to see experts and that report come out to really decide on what our next move is, whether that is spending the money on a new police force, trying to find people that want to be police officers. I know you've talked a lot about that you've had 4 officers that are interested in it. And, we're 2 or 3 years down the line, things can change. I'm sure these officers are great officers, but we can't rely on that happening, these lateral transfers. And I really, my answer to that is that I'm really excited to see what this task force comes out with. I hope that it's something that gets put on a ballot for the citizens to vote on, some type of levy if we want to spend our tax dollars on creating a new police force. And that's really where I stand.
So one of the reasons that I mentioned that I've had officers contact me to join is because one of the biggest objections is that nobody's going to want to come here. They could go make so much more money elsewhere. There's $15,000 signing bonuses here and there, and the reason that I mentioned that there are officers that are willing to come here is not because I know for sure they'll be here in 2 or 3 years whenever we would launch this thing. It's that our community is desirable. It's desirable as a destination, and people would be willing to forego bigger dollars to patrol Deer Park because this is an easy beat. This is actually really good. We don't have the problems that inner city Spokane has. We don't have the hood kind of stuff that goes on down there. This is really a desirable location, a desirable beat. And I've had people actually just approach me and just say, "Hey, look, I'm for this. I think you could do this," that sort of thing. So I guess my question in response to what you said is, what would you need to see come out of that law enforcement study where you would be, "Yep, let's do this. Let's pull the trigger." Like what metrics would you need to have? Because it feels like you're a little squishy. Like you like it, but I'm not making a physique comment there. What would you need to see specifically? What metrics, what numbers, what data would you need to see where you would be comfortable with going, "Yeah, let's do this. We got this." What would that take?
Well, thanks for complimenting my dad bod. Appreciate that. Like I said, your data, your numbers look great. I mean, you did a lot of research, and I appreciate the groundwork that you started with that, right? The data I would like to see is the actual startup cost, what it's going to cost to do that. We also have to think of, we are under contract with the Spokane County Sheriff's Department. So there's going to be that time where we're paying for both, right?
Well, I think there could be a transition period, but yeah.
Okay. And like I said, I want that report to come out. I want the citizens to see that report. I want them to see what the costs are going to be. And like I said, just put it on a levy. Like, are you willing as a citizens of Deer Park to spend this amount of money to start our own police department? Okay. And I want to see expert data. I think hiring a consultant that's a professional in this matter would be great for that task force. And that's, yeah.
And just for the record, and I guess I don't know how many back and forths we get.
You have another minute for your
okay for my closing statement. Yeah, just for the record, I am not in favor of raising $1 in taxes or passing a levy for this at all. Part of the reason that I put out the cost proposal in the Deer Park Gazette is to show that actually we could do this. It would take us 3 years to get to 6 officers. We could have 4 in the first year, 5 in the second year, 6 in the third year, without raising any taxes at all, just simply using the money that we budget right now for our own local police force. Richie said that we're under budget. I don't know if there would be some sort of provision where we could use some of the money that we haven't spent in the past to help fund that. I don't even know that we would need to. But I just want to be really clear that budget that I put out would not raise any taxes, and I'm not in favor of raising any taxes. I think we could do it in a graduated way, and I think in year 1 we could have double the police force coverage than we do right now.
Richie, we would like to honor your preparation and participation in the debate forum. So before I ask you a question, I would still like you to ask your 2 questions of Heather, even though she's not here. and then she can answer them at a later date or however that works out. But we would still like you to ask the questions that you had prepared.
So the first question I was going to ask is, why are you for or against the city council members having email and digital communications to communicate with the citizens in the way that everybody else communicates, whether it be through texting like TextMyGov or email? Why are you for or against that? It costs like through one of the services that provide that, it's $18 per month per user to do that. So it's not a big cost. It's well within our budget. We're dealing with, like the water tower, $6 million. I think we can spend, this amount of money to have email to be able to communicate and send maps back and forth, and be able to share that data with the residents and the citizens that we represent. So, do you want me to do both questions now?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. The other question was chickens. I've been thoroughly amazed by how many people have come up to me in all seriousness and said, chickens. We want chickens. So what is your position on allowing residents to have chickens so that they can have their own eggs? Not necessarily roosters because they make a lot of noise, but just a limited number of chickens. You can do that in Spokane City, but you can't do that in Deer Park. And we're much more of a country city than Spokane. So why can't we have chickens, and what is your position on that? So my opinion on that is that I think we should allow people to have a limited number of chickens. Of course, no roosters. That way, right now there's a difficult time for a lot of people where they're out of work, they're looking for work, and having some small ways that they can reduce what they're spending on food is great. And so that's one of the ways that they can do that with chickens.
So I'm going to pull a couple of these questions just from our extra because we're not going to have time to get to those for you guys anyway, but I will ask Richie. The first one I had is just, do you believe there is waste in the city budget? If so, please cite specific areas where you would reduce funding.
That is a good question. There are, each year we look at the budget annually. A lot of cities do it annually, some do it biannually. And whenever I've looked over that, we're basing the budget off of historical trends. And so for most parts, it's based on how we're growing and stuff. And so in the most cases, I think that the budget is actually really well put together. Where Deer Park is doing fiscally so much better than a lot of other cities across Washington State and across the country. I think that goes to the other city council members, the city staff, the mayor. I'm trying to think of any areas. And some of the budget items, they flex back and forth depending on like how much snowfall we get, what happens in the city. But those are things that we need to have some allowances for. And so I think that's important. So, I think we want to make sure that we're spending the money in the right ways, in the right places. And so I think, getting back to the parks plan is making sure that we have a plan for those dollars and how they're being spent. I think that's really important. Looking at grants, Roger does a fantastic job of getting grants. And so I think that's something else that we need to make sure is as he's retiring, that we have someone that can continue to go after those grants and make sure that we have those funds to do things like get a splash pad so that doesn't have to come out of the tax revenue. So,
and my follow-up to that is, as we continue to grow, do you think the budget should start out what the last year's was, or be evaluated on a year-to-year basis based on growth and based on other factors?
So when we are looking at the budget, we typically are looking at like 3-year trends. For some of the budget items, we look back historically even further. It's with the budget, it's always important to make sure that we are potentially over budgeting but underspending. We want to make sure that there's money to cover all the expenses that the city is going to come up with. We do have to make modifications to the budget throughout the year for various different projects as things come up. And so, that's one of the things is that throughout the year we do make occasional tweaks to the budget as well. So, but we do look at it on an annual basis, looking at the historical trends, most of the time 3 years back, sometimes further.
Thank you. And we'll go to Billy now for your question to Jason.
Sure. Man, I wish I got to answer that chicken question though first. So I want to preface this question. This is no personal attack on any of these three guys I'm about to mention. Okay. I think you guys are all gentlemen, great guys. But one of my concerns is that if you win and Richie win, there's no secret that the two of you guys and Caleb are next door neighbors and buddies. Do you think that it's in the best interest of our town to have three basic next door neighbors and amigos controlling a 5-person city council?
Yeah, so that's good. I think the thing that I would say is that me and Richie and Caleb are not a monolith. We have very different ideas about things. I mean, even recently, Caleb was not in favor of a local police department. So we are individual thinkers. We're friends, and I mean, even throughout this campaign process, you and I have become friends. So Dee's here. We're friendly when we bump into each other, and so being friends could actually be a liability. I understand the concern. The reality, though, is that we have a healthy understanding of that it's also good to have differences and to stand alone. In fact, one of the things that Richie and I talked about when I first decided to run is that there might actually be situations where we're sitting on the city council together and we're on very opposite sides of an issue, and that we need to be very frank with one another and represent our view well with one another. And at the same time, we also need to be able to like shake hands with one another, when we see each other in the backyard. So I don't think that our friendship is any jeopardy to the democracy. I don't think it's any jeopardy to how the city would run here at all. We want to have very, very robust opinions, very robust ideas, and be able to have helpful disagreements. That's one of the things that actually I love about our city is I can talk to Mayor Tim, I can talk to Mary or Dee or Ron or whoever, and we can have disagreements about things, but we're still neighbors. We bump into each other at Yokes, we bump into each other at Zips, and it's okay. We're friendly. We're not hardened enemies. So no, I don't think there's any sort of threat to that.
I'd like to follow up with that too. I mean, my concern is, there's a lot of I know we're small, right? We're less than 5,000. If we get to 5,000, we talked about that earlier today, we might have 7 council members instead of 5. But my concern is that we all live in different neighborhoods in town. There's different towns that have districts. So, I mean, there's certain neighborhoods that are more concerned about their trash can getting stolen. And in my neighborhood, we don't have recycling or green waste. We have different parks that our kids go to. So I just want to make sure that, if you guys win, that you guys are going to give every neighborhood an equal share and fight for everybody, not just, there's going to be ways that perks and stuff that you go to that you're drawn to, but I feel uncomfortable, and I think a lot of citizens do, of having the three of you together.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it was more of a
statement.
Blog. It was more of a blog. Yeah,
it's a statement that I will respond to.
Okay, thank you.
And it'll be a series of rhetorical questions that I think I know the answer to. Do you think that you could represent well the people in Habitat for Humanity homes? You're up in Deer Park Meadows. You're on the opposite side.
I'm in Deer Park Meadows.
Do you think you could represent them well?
Yeah, definitely. I've built a couple. I've helped a couple of home builds there. Yeah.
Could you represent the folks in the golf course?
I believe so.
Could you represent me well?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a little sketch. You get what I'm going at, right?
I get what you're.
That just because I mean, Deer Park isn't that big. I mean, we're still a small town. So yeah, I live on B Street. You guys can look it up, stop by, and we'll probably talk for a couple of hours. Yeah, I think that I can adequately represent other people, just like you think you can adequately represent other people. Mayor Tim lives in the golf course; he can adequately represent the whole town. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Fair answer. Thank you.
Second question here for Richie. What would be a circumstance in which there may be a conflict between your own personal beliefs or opinions and the policies or practices of our administration or the city's administration?
That is an interesting question. I have a lot of deeply felt beliefs, and those guide a lot of how I begin approaching subjects. A lot of the things that we deal with at the city level don't really conflict or have the potential to conflict with my own personal beliefs. Those personal beliefs, they still guide me. But the other thing is that as I am growing, I am still growing. I'm also researching things, and I'm developing as a human and always changing. And so sometimes my personal beliefs help guide the decisions on the city council, but sometimes the information that I learn from the city council, I look at my own personal beliefs and reevaluate those based on those. We are all always growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. So, that's one of the things that I always want to check myself in and make sure that those personal beliefs are not interfering. And I want to make sure that everybody has as much freedom to exercise their own personal beliefs as possible. So that is incredibly important to me. I don't want someone else's personal beliefs to interfere with my personal beliefs. I don't want my personal beliefs to interfere with their personal beliefs. So
I don't think I have a follow-up, so thank you. We'll go to Jason for question number 2.
Okay, so with the recent spike in COVID-19 infections and hospital stuff, we're seeing federal vaccine mandates come down. We're seeing Jay Inslee reinstitute mask mandates and also vaccine mandates for teachers. I imagine it'll start going to government employees and local businesses and that sort of thing. Where do you stand on mask mandates? Where do you stand on vaccine mandates? What's your position on that?
I stand for medical freedom is what I stand for. The choice, as a business owner, I think on the 23rd, we're all indoors. We're required to wear masks now. My employees will never I will never require them to get vaccinated. If they have the option to work from home remotely. I have kids who go to our public schools. I was driving down. I wish I was there yesterday for the protest that was going on Main Street. I drove by my Jeep, honking my horn, put my fist up, and I believe in medical freedom, and that's where I stand.
Okay, no, I'm the same. I don't have a follow up.
Yep.
And we'll go to Billy now for question number 2.
Sure. So, one thing I'll talk about, I don't know if I ever got a real answer from you or I saw from what was going on social media and things, but with the vote on the fireworks, how would you have voted with a ban?
Yeah, good question. So, 3 days before the 4th of July, the city had an emergency. 4th of July, the city had an emergency meeting about fireworks. To ban fireworks. There was the sale of fireworks. There was individual ignition of fireworks, and then there was the city fireworks display. First of all, I want to say fire is deadly dangerous. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple of days. I've helped evacuate 2 people, help clear out their homes, that sort of thing. nevertheless, I would have voted against the ban. I think the wildfires, as crazy as they are, that is a different kind of geography and topography than inside the city of Deer Park, where these fireworks are set off on paved roads. Most people, at least to some extent, water their lawn. There are roofs that are composition that are resistant to fire. There's hoses all around. There's fire engines all around. The risk of any sort of great fire in a home is greater if you are cooking eggs than it is by lighting off fireworks. The risk of death is greater at our local pool than it is by lighting off fireworks. So those are just statistics. And our city opened up the pool unanimously. So you have a greater chance of death through the pool than you do of fireworks. So I would have voted against the ban.
Okay, I'll follow up. Thank you.
The last question of the evening, we will close with a 2-minute statement from each candidate. But the last question I have for Richie is, what advantages and or disadvantages do you see in working for local government?
What advantages? I'm not sure that there are advantages for working with the city government. Yeah, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy putting together solutions and discussing these with all the other city council members, Ron and Dee and Mary and Caleb. I enjoy that. That's, I guess, an advantage. One of the disadvantages is that there's under the microscope all the time. And a lot of people will see conspiracies, but there's not one. There are, but that's worth it for being able to help the community, to be able to answer the questions about what our city's doing and why we're doing it. To be, any disadvantage is minor. It's worth doing. It's worth putting up with. The campaign is a lot of work, but again, that's worth doing because the city is worth it, and we need good leadership. I am so grateful to see so many people that have put in their name to be a candidate this year. Mike Achura, and all the others that have put in their name. Thank you for doing that. We need more people participating in the government. So thank you.
And a follow-up to that is, if you were not part of local government, is there examples of things that you could do differently as a regular citizen, or things that you can do to affect change just as a regular citizen differently or better than currently?
With the Open Meeting Act, there are some rules about what sort of things I'm allowed to communicate and not communicate. And so there are some things that, if I was not part of the city government, that, I would be able to say and do without having to worry about the liability of it. Some of the stuff that's being posted on Facebook as an elected official, that Open Meeting Act can really come back and bite. So if I was not on the city council, I wouldn't necessarily have to worry about that. It's like, if I meet with somebody to talk with them about the city, they can't buy me lunch. I have to buy my lunch. I don't mind buying my own lunch, but there are things like just communicating things, interacting and engaging on social media that I can't do.
We will now close with a 2-minute statement from each candidate. We'll start the far end with Richie. And I would also like to say before that, we do have on the back of the flyers questions for the audience to fill out if they so wish, just about how the night went, what their favorite section was, and if there's any suggestions or anything to add for a future event if that were to happen. So we'll start with Richie for 2 minutes.
But thank you for everyone for coming and participating, and for everybody that's watching online. The more people that we can have participating in the government, the better. I really want to continue working with the city council. The point that I really enjoy the most of this is being able to discuss and have the solutions come together. And so that's something that's been very difficult through the pandemic, is being able to work together to come up with the solutions for the city's needs. So I'd like to continue some of these things, the projects that we've started looking at into the law enforcement issue, chickens, all the parks. There's lots of other things that I think that need our attention. And I'm looking forward to discussing those things with the city council members. So one of the other things is just like email accounts and being able to discuss that. One of the things that is often, or not often, but occasionally happens and is frustrating is when we have a vote but no discussion. And I don't like when that happens. I much rather have everybody's opinion out there, be able to have some back and forth, some discussion on those things. So I'm all about wanting to have more transparency for our government. I think, again, that those city council meetings should be streamed online and recorded as a permanent record for the city, for residents to be able to watch and see exactly what's going on. The published meetings afterwards don't really capture all the discussion. Debbie does a great job with the meeting minutes, but that's just the nature of those meeting minutes. So thank you.
Now, Billy, for your closing 2 minutes.
Yeah, so for part of my 2 minutes, I wanted to use some of that time to publicly apologize to you, Jason. So we had a conversation today. One of my biggest things in my campaign is that I don't believe in PAC groups getting involved. That's just my personal, especially in a small town feel. And I made the assumption when I saw the newspaper and things that were going on online that they had, with their endorsement, what PAC I'm talking about, that they funded part of your campaign. And we talked about that today. And I apologize for making that misassumption. So I hope you can accept that.
Yeah, I do. I accept that. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
So that being said, I give up some of my time. So when we're done here, if you guys go to our booth, my daughter Catherine worked really hard folding these brochures we made. There was one typo. We were about 75 brochures into folding these. And so I had to go back to my office and print out another 100. So I just wanted to kind of read off my platform on why I think you guys should vote for me. My platform is based on three topics. I'm family oriented, community focused, and business minded. Family oriented, I'll put the needs of Deer Park families at the core of my decision-making process and continue to create a better community for them. This includes improvements to recreation, a focus on education, and creating the infrastructure needed to support the needs of our growing families. Community focused. As our community grows, I will be smart and strategic while keeping that small town feel that makes Deer Park such a great place to live. The safety of our community is my number one priority if I get the honor of earning your vote. Business-minded. I'm a small business owner. I understand what it's like to manage a budget and spend money appropriately and conservatively. I will approach this position with a business mindset, making decisions that are well-researched and are in the best interest of the people of Deer Park. So I appreciate your vote, November 4th. Thank you.
And last but not least, Jason, with your closing 2 minutes.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. This is good. I love the fact that you guys are interested and involved, and those who are watching live on Facebook, thank you for spending the time, hour and a half or so, to watch. Just want to encourage you, if you have questions for me, for Billy, for Richie, for really any of these candidates, reach out to us. We are not professional politicians. We are politicians, or we want to be, and we want to make our community better. But ask us. This is the beauty of a small town. My three things that I want to get accomplished here in Deer Park. I want a local police force. I think you guys know that by now. I want a local police force. I also want to invest in our parks here, and I also I want to see businesses, specifically a grocery store, come to better serve our community. Those are not things that I can promise that I will get accomplished, but those things I will promise that I will fight to get accomplished. I want to do everything that I can to make this place a great place. I've got 5 kids. I got one on the way. My kids and we're going to be here. My wife and I, we're going to be here a long time. We want this to be the best community possible. We love this community, and we want to see it be just a wonderful place for not only us, but for everybody. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you for Kelsey for hosting. Thank you for everybody who's made this possible, the sound crew, everybody. Michael, you, thank you.
Well, thank you guys. And like Jason said, thank the sponsors and thank the audience members for participating and showing up, and the people who asked questions on Facebook. We ran a couple minutes over, or else we wouldn't have heard the train. So thank you guys.